Are you all discuss? Oh,
Go ahead. Oh,
no,
go ahead.
do your wild thing. No, you're recording. That's okay.
Yeah, I just said it.
That's before she started recording.
Yeah, I was gonna say something before that. That's okay. Go ahead. Let's do our wow.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a good comment because we no longer have a wow anymore. For this year, we're going to a POW.
Oh, I forgot.
That's okay. So, welcome to today's class. So we'll get down to my POW, and what my POW is of course is a phrase, and it was ironic because I was sharing the other day is this is a poem that was sent to me years ago by a friend of mine, and what the poem involves is telling you that you're not alone. But there are some comments pertaining to that always stuck with me. But the phrase that I'm using from the poem is, if the mountain seems too big today, then climb a hill instead. And then what it goes on to say is the mountain will still be there. So climb it when you want to try again. Many times I'll kind of look at it. This friend that sent me this writes a lot of poems herself, always has. And every Christmas, I always, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I always get this Christmas of the poem for the year from my friend Jan that lives down in Florida. But what was interesting about this poem to me, when the young lady, the poet for the inaugural speech, did her message, I think, had to do with the hill we climb or something like that. I'm trying to remember the name. But I thought it was interesting because I went back and I listened to that again. And when I listened to it, it really kind of broke down that mountain into the hills that we need to kind of look at, but it's still a struggle. But if you try to look at everything in a grand proportion and looking at the mountain instead of just trying to take the hill and break it apart, what a difference it makes in trying to conquer things. But that's my phrase for this week. Hi, Laretha.
Hi, everybody. I'm on the hill this morning.
Oh, what now?
I took the hill this morning.
It's okay.
Because the mountain was kind of big this morning, so but I'm on the hill now.
But you arrived. That's key. You got here. So I'm sure it was a lot easier. But I just wanted to share that. That was, and I just want you to know when I pull this poem out to look, because I use things around me, I have all kinds of books and stuff like that. When I came across this because I was cleaning up things, I chose those comments before I remembered Gorman's speech. And this is really bugging me. But nevertheless, I just wanted to pass that on to you. So does anybody have anything they want to add to that comment? I've been so happy because Laretha's been joining us in afternoon class, and so it's taking things in a different direction. Because now what she's picking up, a lot of the techniques that we normally did like in the intermediate class, and then when I would hear you all on Friday, you didn't teach that, we didn't go over this, we didn't do that. So it's working out in a positive way for her. So I'm happy to have her in those classes with us.
It's refreshing.
Thank you. I think so. Okay, just a reminder, did everybody receive the updated virtual class schedule?
Yeah.
You know about the February events and everything that's coming up? Because I just saw my notes. What is this? Super Bowl trivia? When is that coming up, on the 4th? I know there's some other attachments to go to that. I have a note here. I'm assuming they published this. So if you're doing the Super Bowl event, they're having a Super Bowl trivia. It says on 2/4, so I'm assuming that's still on. Case. Okay. Any other comments? All right, this is sharing information, and you may or may not have seen this. You know, I always say if you find something of interest, make sure you bring it in and share it, because not only we talk about jewelry making, but any other information, particularly during these times, that is important to get that information out there. Now, I don't know how many of you all heard this, because Apple was slow in making the safety announcement. But
Mhm.
those of you that have the newer phones with that magnet in it, did you hear about that already?
Yes, I did. A few
Okay.
friends sent me the information
Well,
also.
I'm glad, because I didn't know it until I saw it the other day, and I was surprised. But what it's really talking about, if you have the newer phones with that magnet that's in it, that uses the MagSafe or has the capability of doing the MagSafe charging, how important it is to not put those phones in your pockets or any place. And particularly if you're a person that has or may have implants or pacemakers, because this magnet is so much stronger. And
Wow.
yeah, I'm certain that you remember in class, I always told you if you were using any type of magnetic closures on things, you had to be very careful about it. If you were giving it to someone, then be certain that that person didn't have any type of appliance in their body, that magnet would be a problem, because you may not see it. And that's what I was telling somebody, but the magnet is in here. So this is a MagSafe type cover that's on here, because you can purchase certain covers. If it doesn't have that in the back of that case, you can't charge like that, but it is there. And the thing I noticed is that I went back, when I kind of held that magnet right here, it just pulls it right to it. So it's very, very powerful.
Okay.
Yeah, and the lastly on this is, normally I use old work shirts and stuff, and whenever I'm going up and down, I always have my phone in my pocket, because that's where I would carry it. So I did, but I was surprised when I read that, because I didn't know about that. So your friend was really good in sending you to that. So it was just by accident that I read it, and now they've gotten on Apple about making more people aware about that magnet and what it can possibly do. So I just want to pass that on. Sandra, you could have shared that with me, girl. I didn't know. I was so
Oh,
in the
okay.
dark. Do you guys remember when Sandra was a novice with all of this stuff and she didn't want to change with
Yeah,
it? Look, she's
Yeah.
an expert now.
yeah, those were the good old days.
That's right. She didn't want to leave that flip phone behind. She was still
I
good. It
sure
was
did.
only $20
Look,
a month.
I still have my Android phone. I was supposed to give it up in December.
Right.
I haven't given it up yet. So
Oh.
I'm operating with two mobile phones.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, maybe in the summer I'll get rid of the Android, but
Oh, all right.
I
No
don't know.
problem.
I like
Okay.
them both. They have different features. They're different, but yet there's some things about the Android that I can appreciate that
Okay.
my iPhone does not have. So
That's amazing. Okay.
Oh, so but it's in a different format.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
What then I brought this over from my Wednesday class, because Carolyn asked about she was working on a stretchy bracelet, and the material she was using is started to sag immediately. So what we determined, part of it probably was her not really securing it, because whenever we do, or at least I do, any type of elastic, which is very rare, I always make certain that I use glue and knot it in place, which was something she was not doing. But they also brought up this other product that's supposedly fantastic called Opalon. Have you heard of that one?
No.
Yeah, I went out and I read up on it. Apparently, it's a relatively new product, but it's called Opalon Stretch. And that came about because Carolyn had already done some research and she did order it. I think I saw it on Fire Mountain, may be one of the ones, but I just want to tell you about that particular product since it came up, because it is something that I had not heard of before. And the price ranged for about $4.50, I think it was. And I saw it at some place, it was like $3.95, somewhere in that category. Also, another thing that came up, and I went out and looked at this also. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the site called Bead Education. Have you visited that
I
site
haven't
before?
visited that one. No.
Oh, Leona, you didn't share.
Well, I thought y'all knew all that stuff because I knew about the Opalon and the Beaducation because they're on what is that? Netflix. No, yeah, think not Netflix.
Netflix?
That one. Not Netflix. YouTube.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
And I watch. You know, I go to sleep by a lot of those movies. I mean, classes.
Okay, no problem.
It's called
Well,
Bead what? It's
called Beaducation.
what's it called? Bead what?
Beaducation. So it's Beaduation. Oh, I'm sorry, Beaducation, I think is what it is. And what I found is after I went out to the site, they particularly focus a lot on like metalsmithing type concept and how to use wire. But apparently on the first and third Wednesdays at 1 p.m. on YouTube, I'm sorry, on Facebook, this one is, they do a live presentation of some craft. So in case you're interested, you might want to view the website, but I found that it was really, it's something I'll go back and look at because there's some interesting things that's out there. Okay. So that's the information I had to bring forward. So what I'm asking you to do is look into your former supplies if you have them. If you have something that's Valentine theme, heart, whatever, and I know we've done this in the past. I think it's our class on the 12th. You might want to pull out or have it ready or pull out or send me a photo of what you have that's a heart related. It would be nice. So that would be our Valentine presentation.
Okay.
All right, so Laretha, am I missing anything that you can think of? Now that you come to Wednesday class, you'll be my backup memory.
I can't think of anything right now.
Oh, okay. All right. So based upon that, what I want to do is I want to go into show and tell because a lot more people, particularly since they've been away, have been using the time to work with a lot more wire, which I think is a fantastic thing because many of them purchased wire before. And I don't think you all, I know you haven't, that I can remember, did as much like wire coiling or something like that, using the coilers. So they've been putting that into play and came up with some really unique pieces. And so I do want to show you that. Okay. All right, so before I do that, I think I mentioned the fact that I wanted to start focusing on a particular gemstone so that we could kind of build our blog or our personal information about the stones. So I'll do that first, and then I'll go into the show and tell pieces, okay? So the gemstone that I focus on this time is Chinese jade. And I chose that one because I have several pieces of jade, and what I thought was like the upper end, I found out in reading up about it is like you kind of have like the middle to like the leftover pieces, you know, like chipping away at the good stuff, and then you have these fragments and everything that are left. But that was the piece that I chose to look at. And what it's saying is that Chinese jade has been treasured by the Chinese for more than 7,000 years. They call it yu. And I went out to look at how to pronounce that, just so and it said, and it was used in burials to preserve and keep the corpse intact in religious and rainmaking ceremonies. It is considered to be the good luck stone. And there are 3 key types of jade, even though there are other fragments and other things. But what you have, the Burmese pale imperial, the carved jade, which is usually a mid-green, and then there's the modern dark green. And my other things I read about it is in the, if you go to China and different places, they have jade markets and they sell based upon weight and color. And the other thing is the mid-greens color of jade is really like the hardest, one of the hardest stone, which is another reason why they do a lot more carving on that particular one than maybe like the pale imperial, because it is so hard that it's very difficult to add a decorative piece to it without carving it. Key things that I found was interesting about it is, number one, they're saying it's considered a good luck stone, but yet you use it to preserve a corpse. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to pick pieces out or something, but I'm trying to figure where the luck is in that, but doesn't matter at this point. So that part of it. But also, like I said, is realizing that some of the things that I purchased and the pieces that I have, most of them I bought when we were going to the Down the Street Bead Show. Like they would have, like I have some earrings that looks like a little temple or something like that. But it's a very pale green, but it doesn't fit into like the high end of that, the stones. It is low end. But I just thought it was a very interesting thing when I looked at it and what it's about. The other thing that I remembered is when we went to the shows and you picked up the pieces, the strands that were carved, it's very heavy. When you had a lot of those carved pieces on there, I mean, it made a very heavy piece of, if you were trying to use all of that intact, a very heavy piece of jewelry. So, any questions, comments?
Well, I guess I have the mid-green. I like jade.
So do I.
Mhm.
But I thought what I had was better than what it is. But
Yeah.
so now we have the good luck stone.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So what I want to do is I want to show you the earrings that Sandra is wearing today, done in a brick stitch. Of course, I love the colors that are in them.
Oh, that's pretty.
Yeah.
Little fish. Oh.
Thank you. You may recall that I showed you one of these back towards the end of last year.
Yeah.
And Loretha was the inspiration for the second one, because
Okay.
I know how she always changes things in her work. So
And I see it. And now I see it.
so you can see,
Uh-huh.
but they seem to work. They
No,
seem
it
to work.
does. And you know what? I looked at them when I did not see, but I'm looking right at it now. It's the fish, the colors,
Yeah.
the skull, the different. Barbara, do you see it?
Oh yeah, that's why I said it was really nice.
Oh
I enjoyed
yeah.
it.
Marie, do you see the difference?
I
Yeah.
see the difference.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And I didn't even notice it at first. I really did not.
I have a
Very-
friend that won't wear won't wear a pair of earrings alike. She'll
Mhm.
make them different. And that's what that reminded me of. I like that whole concept. I
Mhm.
really do.
That's
But remember, Garney did that all the time,
Right.
and that was something I never noticed with
Oh.
her until one day. No, she was the person that really introduced me to wearing a different ear, even though the color schemes were
yes,
different.
she did.
She always did that. And
Oh.
one day, she didn't have on an earring, and I made a comment about it, and she says, "No, I just took it off." And she showed me. She says, "Well, they never match exactly, but that's how I noticed that." But it really points out if your color schemes are the same, how people will look at something and
Mhm.
not pay attention to it. But that's really cool. I love
It
that.
is.
Cool.
I noticed that. Yeah.
So
Mhm.
thank you, Loretha, for that inspiration.
You're welcome.
Mm. Inspiring. I like it.
I sure do.
Very good.
Is it one of the fish forgot to get dressed that day?
Look, it was the one that was trying to swim up the mountain. Okay. So, as I was pointing out, a lot of people focusing on wire. And so I want to show you, these are things from that were presented Wednesday afternoon. And Ellen is not here today, but she, of course, does a lot. And I learned something from this. What she presented is, because she does a lot of wire work. This is a bracelet that she made. And let's see if I can enlarge this. Okay, you see this? What I thought was a tube that was a large piece of wire that was encased in a tube. And I really thought it was like doing a spiral and then taking it and like kind of flatten the piece so that the center core, I don't know if you can see this in here, went through that tube, but it's not that. What she did is, this wire is plaited. So it's plaited around the core wire. So this one was definitely, I won't say deceiving to me, because what I thought it was about, and she said they were a total of 12 wires, 6 on each side, 12 wires and 6 on each side that she plaited. She said plaited, not braided. I guess it means the same thing, but that she did to cover that core. So that was one thing. So there were 3 shots of this. And then this is the closure that she made, but the ends. So when she plaited or braided those wires, when she got to the end, they came up, she wrapped them around that core wire. And that's where the bead caps come in. And the core wire came up through the one hole in the bead cap. And that's the core wire. One of the things she said, it was like 14 or 16 gauge, a core wire was. And I can't remember, I think it was 18 or 20 for the wire that she used to braid it with. But that's how the closure came about.
That's beautiful.
She did I thought, an excellent job with that. And I think this was the top part. Yeah, but that's what so it has texture to it. But that's what the final product looks like, from the front or around. But it's a bangle type bracelet.
It's beautiful.
Sure is.
And she said she took about, I think, 6 hours to do the braiding part for that. And then one of the others, individual, because I think I may have taught you guys a little bit about chainmail in the Friday class, but I think we did, because we were doing more bead weaving, and of course it was more of, you didn't tell us about that one, you didn't tell us about, but anyway, the whole concept of chainmail being the ability to loop your links together, jump rings together, so that you create this chain or pattern. And Julia did this piece that she taught herself to do. She did basic chainmail with me, but this was a pattern she found where you actually inserting a bead in it. And she did this. And it has, but these are, of course, like jump rings or links connected together. And then these are the earrings that she did.
And those links hold the bead inside of it.
Right, because what happens is, if you think about, you have 2 jump rings, you have a single jump ring here. This one, you see that? Then you have 2 jump rings, and you open them up like a V, you insert your bead in it. And then when you add the other jump rings here, it pulls those 2 together, that's holding that bead, and it kind of locks it in there. So the key thing about doing this is you always just have to look at your bead size need to be of a size that when you pull the rings together, that bead can't pop outside of it. That's the key. But otherwise, it's a repetitive technique, because if you look at this, so you have 2 that close the end down, and if you notice, you see where your V is on the start of it. V goes inside. When you add these 2 rings, it brings this end together, which locks it in. Single jump ring again, you got your V, bead. Then when you create your V, that's where your bead goes in. And then on the other side is when you put in your 2 rings together, it kind of closes it up. so
Mhm.
that the bead stays there. That's the pattern that's in there.
That's
And
nice.
it's very easy. And she did make her closure for the piece also. And that was simply a matter of taking your wire and folding it in half and giving it a little bend. And she took the other end and just created a loop, like another ring to close around those two. That's all her closure is. So what you think?
Very nice. Very
Well,
creative.
just giving you something to do with that wire that you probably have around there. So what I did is I found a really unique pattern, again, for wires and loops. I will send it to you. It doesn't mean you have to do anything with it, just giving you food for thought if it's something. This is called After Midnight, but it's the pattern that I was looking at. You see the two jump rings? See the rings? But this had a step-by-step. And in this situation, what's happening is the concept that Julia used when it was like two rings separated to create the V. If you watch this, it's like two rings creating the V. You see the two rings, the bead goes in there. That's what they're doing here. So I will share this with you. Doesn't mean you have to do anything with it. It's food for thought. But chainmail is really cool. The big thing I like about it is if you get stuck, you can, with a chain or something, you want a chain of a certain thickness or whatever, is that you can put those jump rings together and create that chain. Okay. All right. So I was trying to remember. I think that's all that I have in this past week, but I really do want to give everybody an opportunity. If you decide you want to work with the wire or do something more, then it helps me figure out, what I can create to show you about working with wire. There are a lot of videos out there, but chainmail I think is really interesting. And I like chainmail concepts when you combine them with like washers or like not screws, but like the bolts, because it can give you a very masculine texture if that's what you're looking for. But also when even if you were weaving a piece or a pendant or something like that and want to change it up, if you attach it to like finer pieces of chain that's created in the chainmail concept of anchoring them together, then you can add something different to your piece other than just running it through like a standard chain that you purchase. You can give yourself more texture.
Mhm. Sounds interesting. I'll try that. I'm pulling out some wire. Going through my stash.
Okay. Because I knew a lot of people had purchased wire in the past. But also another thing about the wire is when you have like old electrical cords or something, or lamp cords, you know how when you strip the wire,
Uh-huh.
there are all those strands of wire in there.
Yeah.
You can take those multiple strands of wire and twist them together to get a single strand that has more substance to it. And you can coil those wires and turn them into a lot of things.
Good.
Really. So, rather than throwing the cords away or something, stripping the wire out of them, because a lot of the newer pieces utilize more copper type wire. That's a thicker gauge that you can do other things with.
Mhm.
There's a lot of other things that can be done with it.
That reminded me of one of the students that was in the class, Ali, and she used to, her blinds, she got rid of her blinds. She would take the cords out of her blinds and use them to make jewelry.
Mhm.
Oh, that's unique.
Mhm. Well, I think I shared with you all when I was working, I had a pendant piece. and the hole of the pendant was such that no matter what I ran through it, it wasn't thick enough to stabilize the piece. And what I ended up doing is I took one of my old HDMI cords, what is it, HMDI cord or whatever, because of the thickness, and I cut the ends off of that cord. It was a perfect fit, and I put bead caps on the end, and I'll take a picture, and that's what I use. Because if you buy the better cables, you always getting them all the time. I mean, every time you purchase something, if it has USB controls or something, you get these cables. I mean, you can't use all of them. And I normally replace it with the gold tip cables anyway, because they give better transmission. So what I do is I cut the ends off of them, and that in the better cords, that tube is very, very flexible, is protected, and it's a great piece to use. And it works. And a lot of them have different thicknesses and all, so but it was perfect for the pendant piece I had. Because everything else, like when I got leather, whatever, because I even thought about trying to braid some leather together and make it thick enough, but that cord worked perfectly. So now that's what I do with my cords. I just cut them off.
That's a good idea.
Well, thank you, madam. No problem.
Yeah,
Use what you have.
That's right.
yeah,
Very much
we'll
so.
remind you to bring it to show to us next week.
No problem. We can do that.
Can you find it?
Yeah, I think I do. As a matter of fact, the piece that I have, Lillian and I went to a bead show together. I think it was at Frank Cox or something like that. We found these pendant pieces they already made, but they have, like I said, the opening is much larger. So, yeah. But when I ran something through it that was thinner, it kept flopping around on it because you needed something thick enough so it would stabilize it. Yeah. So, okay. So does anyone have any questions or anything that I can focus on or you would like for us to view or work on? Speaking of which, I did pick up the items from the center last week for the display. And Sandra, I do have your mask. I don't know why I thought there were a lot more jewelry pieces in there, but the window was done based upon techniques rather than pieces. So only it ended up being about like 4 or 5 pieces of jewelry that's in there. And of course, the other things, like the pasta machines and other things, but I did wait in the parking lot. I did not go in the building. And they didn't want me in the building because they shut the door in my face and I stayed in the car. So I was there in the parking lot for about 45 minutes because it wasn't ready. But it was okay. And there were only about 3 or 4 cars there. So, but anyway, so Kimberly got everything down. And Aretha, I have your stuff as well. So what I've done is I bagged them all up in baggage, put the signage in, and wrote a telephone number on the little card is in the bag. It's sitting in the box right in my front bedroom. So whatever, but right at the moment I do have it. So but it was almost scary being in there because you're so used to seeing so much activity.
Right.
And of course, while I'm sitting there in the back, I don't remember if she's the director on the daycare side, but came up and rapped on my window, and I had my mask on, so I let the window down. And I said, "Well, may I help you?" She says, "No, may I help you? We aren't having any classes, I said, "I'm aware of it. I just came to pick something up." So they noticed everything that's going on, and only I would guess the main gate on the daycare side is the only gate that's open. So anyway, but I did manage to go up there, but it was strange.
I thought it's strange that she mentioned that we weren't having classes. It has been a while since we have been in this pandemic.
It's almost a year.
That's what I was going to say too. But Tron said they're teaching their exercise classes at home now.
Do what now?
The exercise classes, they used to go to the center and teach them from the center, but now they're doing them from home.
That's what I said. I mean, you cannot go in the building. I
Right.
do know there's been a lot of work done in the buildings, a lot of upgrades in my understanding, but I just want to make you aware I was not. They didn't have to close the door, don't get me wrong, because I wasn't going in anyway, but
Right,
I
right.
just waited out there. No, they don't. Everything has to be done remote. Everything. So, but back to my question again, is there anything in particular we want to focus on? Or do you like going across the platform now? Because it is the opportunity for us to learn or pick up on some of those things someone may not have gotten in class early on.
Well, I'm interested in the chain mail. I've always been interested in that. So that's good enough for me to get started on with the chain mail.
All right.
And
Well, like I said, as I'll send out that pattern to everybody, is
yeah,
left up to you.
other than that, I still haven't.
Go ahead.
I don't know why my internet is unstable today, so I get a freeze every now and then.
That's
But
okay.
I'm interested in the chain mail, and
Okay.
and I want to do that. And I'm gonna make myself practice that Russian spiral.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna start on the hill, not the mountain.
That reminds me, I've been wanting to make a Russian leaf, and I see patterns and I've yet to do it. So I'm going to try doing a Russian leaf since you mentioned that Russian spiral. But I saw a picture the other day.
I'm wondering if it's the one that I looked at. Did it include, was it a pair of earrings in a Russian leaf?
Yes.
I
And you have to
think-
make both sides and then connect. And I think I've read the instructions, and I have to be able to actually see it in my head before I start making it. And I always get to a point where I'm not clear with instructions. So I think
Okay.
I'll try that.
Okay.
Russian leaf.
Yeah,
That's
I
how
have to go back and look to see if that's the pattern that I pulled, because I saw something and I want to think that's what it said.
Yeah.
Louisa, you were saying,
I'll say that's how Sandra and I are different. She has to see it. I start on it, and then once I start on it, then I put it together.
No,
okay,
I have to visualize it first. I have to visualize.
you know what I do? I start working on it and then I look at it and wonder why it looks different or something like that. Because I'm notorious for reading instructions after I start something.
Me too.
But remember, I'm left-handed. I'm
Oh, that's
left-handed.
right.
So I have
Right.
to read first and try to interpret it, because a lot of times things are written for someone who's right-handed, or
Right.
even if it's not written that way, the photographs or the illustrations will have you going from right to left, and we left-handers, we need to go from left to right.
Right, I
And so
forgot
I
about
have to see it like a mirror image in my head before I can start beading.
Okay, I understand. No problem. Okay, so on that note, I can't remember if there was any other key information, but I'm just advising everybody to stay tuned and make certain that you check for the virtual class schedule. If you find something that you think someone else may not know, please feel free to reach out and share that information. Quick question, has anybody heard anything more about Mrs. Hall?
It's released and she's going to
Oh.
rehab.
Excellent. That's good news.
Great. I've
That's
been
good.
praying for her.
Thank you. Thank you. Very, very good. Okay.
That's good.
So on that note, unless you have any other questions or comments or thoughts, then this is the end of our session for today. And I always invite you guys to reach out. Email is still the same.
Okay.
All right. So then
right.
I will either chat with you all before the week is over, or I'll hope to see you next week. And don't forget to go through your treasure trove and find those Valentine designs. Or if you happen to be searching and find a new Valentine design, feel free to share that one also.
Oh yeah, I've got lots
Okay.
of old stuff. I may make something new.
Okay.
Oh, okay. We look forward to that. Marie, do you have any questions?
No, not at this time.
Okay. All right, ladies, then I will see you next week. Enjoy.
Okay.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Barbara, I will
Goodbye.
call you because I have a question for you, okay?
Who?
Barbara,
Okay.
yeah, I have a work related, when I say work, home remodeling related question, but I'll call you. Okay,
But don't be
Thank you.
talking about me now.
not unless you're a remodeling project. Promise I won't do that. Okay,
Okay.
all right, love you guys. Talk to you
Okay.
later.
Love you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.